It can create an energy in a city, a kind of creative energy that can really connect people.
Everyone, welcome to Table 6. We're your co-hosts, Lori Weir and Dana Duncanson. On today's episode, you'll hear my conversation with Kelly Langgard, Director and CEO of Toronto Arts Council and the Toronto Arts Foundation.
How lucky are we to be living in a city that really celebrates and preserves art throughout just not throughout the downtown, throughout the city.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Going to do a little shameless plug here, Dana. So as we know, because we worked really hard on this last year, the Toronto Downtown West BIA has a program called Art Walk.
Art Walk.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's so cool.
Just to be able to see those 70 pieces, 70 plus pieces now of art, it continues to grow in the city, really preserved and curated in this app is just amazing and just a free experience that anyone can take part in.
Yeah, so you just go to yourexperienceawaits.ca/arts, and there's a free walking tour. You can have an audio experience, an AR experience, and you just basically use your cell phone to have this, walking tour of all the public artworks here in the downtown core.
Yeah, I love it because, art really gives us a sense of place, engagement, and community. And to see the versatility in art out there, really the expressions of these artists, the history that's maintained in a lot of the artworks throughout the city.
Yeah.
It's great.
It's really important. So when I chatted with Kelly, I did ask her, why does the city continue to invest in public art? I mean, I think we can all agree that there's a lot of issues happening right now in the city. And the fact that we continue to push for that and advocate and invest in public art. So she had a really interesting answer that I think people will be curious to hear.
Yeah.
And, she also talked about the city's 10-year plan.
Yeah, no, it's great that we have that plan in place and to know that Toronto Arts Council and Toronto Art Foundation is sort of backing artists as well in the city. It's just wonderful. So really interesting and important conversation that you had with her. So let's get into this episode with Lori and Kelly.
Welcome, Kelly. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so happy to have you at the table.
I'm excited to be here.
Kelly, for those people listening and watching at home, can you share with us what exactly is the Toronto Arts Council and the Toronto Arts Foundation?
Sure. So the Toronto Arts Council is the City of Toronto's funding body for artists and arts organizations in the city. So we have a budget of close to $26 million, the majority of which, 90% of which, goes to artists and arts organizations directly for the work that they do, creating art, presenting art, producing it, working in community. A wide variety of art forms and artworks and activities is funded by the Toronto Arts Council. And we were established in 1974. So this year is actually our 50th anniversary.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. And then the Toronto Arts Foundation is a sister organization to the council, and that operates with private donations and sponsorships. And that's primarily focused on making sure that the arts sector, artists and organizations have support for their capacity, have support to reach the public. We support newcomer and refugee artists to the city to help them integrate and find their networks. We also support youth employment type activities through the foundation.
That's incredible. Wow. So you've been in your role as president for about a year. Can you share with us when you first joined, what was maybe your vision for change or what you were hoping to accomplish in your new role?
Well, for me, it's really more about amplifying all of the great work and artists and organizations that are here in Toronto. And so I really came in with a vision about how can we do that in a bigger and better way, and how can we also make sure that our grant programs, that our supports that we do have for artists and organizations are very accessible, are very friendly, and that we continue to be a very strong community-based organization, which is what the Toronto Arts Council is. The majority of people who work at the council are artists themselves, and that's a really great strength that we have. Absolutely. Our ability to know the community, to know what is needed, and also to do the outreach and make sure that we're sort of consistently representing the whole community in Toronto.
So are you also guiding and advising the city in terms of, the gaps and what's needed How does that relationship work?
We have a really close dialogue with the city. And I think because the TAC is so close to the ground, we're so aware of what's going on. We're often exchanging information and, pointing to where some challenges might come up, also where opportunities are.
Right. That's great. And then what about other cities? Or do you collaborate and kind of share key learnings with other cities, or just really focus here in Toronto?
We do actually. Actually, just before I came here, I was in a meeting with our Arts Council colleagues in Calgary and Edmonton and Winnipeg and Montreal. So we meet on a regular basis and talk about what we're dealing with, the special initiatives we're running, what we're seeing in the field with the grants that we're giving. It really helps to inform what we do and make sure we're doing the best we possibly can.
Absolutely. It's such a nice network to have collaboration, for sure.
Yeah.
In terms of public art, I guess just before we go any further, can you define for us what exactly is considered public art? Because when I think of it, I'm sure it's more than just, sculptures that you're seeing on the sidewalk.
Yeah. I think most people, when they think of public art, think of those big public commissions and or corporate commissions of sculptures that might sit in a plaza or somewhere. But actually, public art can be so many different things. And also it depends how you define it. I like to think about public art as any kind of artist intervention in a public space that is accessible and that really connects people to the space of the city and the creativity that's there. But you could think about sculpture, you could think about media installation, graffiti, street art, other kinds of visual arts, as well as music, theater, sort of performance interventions in spaces as well that could be both permanent and temporary.
That's so cool. It's really all encompassing. So Kelly, can you share with us a little bit about the intangible benefits of public art? Why is it so important in helping to create a unique identity for a city?
I think public art, one thing that why it's so important is that it creates engagement. It creates a sense of place. It can create an energy in a city, a kind of creative energy that can really connect people and that can really create a sort of social engagement beyond the bricks and mortar of a city. So, a city is not a great place to live because, it's big or because it's successful or because, there are a lot of buildings or there's a lot of busyness. It's because people can feel that sense of place. You can experience it on a human scale.
Yeah.
And how it makes you feel is really important to feeling present and feeling happy and engaged in the place where you live.
I love that, how it makes you feel. I think people are so kind of in their world of busyness as they're commuting, they're getting off the streetcar or they're, walking to work or walking to meet a friend for a coffee. And they've probably passed by so many beautiful pieces of public artworks that they don't even recognize or know that is right under their nose. So just giving that opportunity to remind people that it's there and to stop and engage and appreciate. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think so too. And in Toronto, if you do stop and look up and look for those opportunities, you'll find them everywhere. Toronto is a very vibrant city when it comes to public art and all the opportunities that people have to engage with artists in the city.
Absolutely. One of the programs with the Toronto Downtown West BIA created is called Art Walk, as you know. And we really love to encourage people to check that out because really what it is just engaging with the art, reminding people that there's over 70 plus pieces of outdoor public artworks to discover. And there's an audio component and there's an AR component. And we really just want to encourage people to go out and check out what's literally on pretty much every street corner in our city.
Yeah, Art Walks is a great thing. It's a great thing for people to do. And also all these things are free.
Free, yeah.
So yeah,
there's no reason not to do it.
Right.
One of my favorite pieces is Glen, which is just outside of the CBC building. And I was lucky enough to meet the artist, Ruth Abernethy, who did the piece, the bronze sculpture. And the story that she told about her experience creating it, it was just so fascinating. I think people sometimes forget that there's real people. There's artists behind these pieces, and there's stories behind them. And I think what is so cool about Art Walk is if you go on to the website, you can learn about the whole history, what it's made out of, the story behind it, the artist, when it was made, the material that it was made from, and then there's the audio component too. So you can literally go around the city with your phone and experience this, as you said, for free.
Yeah, it's a great thing. And when you were talking about Ruth's work, you made me think about Tanis Nielsen, who's an Indigenous artist who has a set of murals that she did about Indigenous stories and leaders that I walk past almost every day when I go to work. It's just under the overpass or the underpass of Lower Simcoe Street.
Right.
And those are some beautiful public murals that people can look at that are also important because they remind us that Toronto is built on Indigenous lands.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
It's important to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
I have to ask, kind of switching to devil's advocate question, understanding all of these incredible benefits of having public art, but certainly our city is quite strapped for cash right now, and there's so many priorities. Why is it important that we continue to fund the arts and public art?
Well, I think some of it we've talked about already in terms of like social cohesion and the benefits of an engaged public and a vibrant city. I really love what Mayor Chow said at our Mayor's Evening for the Arts this past year. She said the arts are the soul of our city, and that is so true. And I think also what is true is that if you want that soul of the city to be strong, you have to invest in it. So having that public investment is so important for the city to realize that there are economic benefits, there are tourism benefits that come from people wanting to come to the city, wanting to see what's here, to walk around, to experience all that public art. That there are also knockoff benefits for businesses, and but beyond that, really, I think it is how people can identify with the city as a place that represents them, as a place that reflects them, and that has a creativity that I think we all have inside us.
Yeah. I think it helps also foster a sense of pride in our community, right? And being Torontonian and having all of this beautiful art around us is special, and it makes us proud to be living here. When you take a look at other cities that are quite well known for investing and really prioritizing public art, like Miami and Berlin and Montreal, even here in Canada, what do you think that they've done that we haven't quite mastered yet, or what can we do to maybe get there a little bit closer to that and really prioritizing art?
Well, a couple of things that come to mind for me immediately is, I remember Montreal. I remember going to Montreal when I was a student in my, early 20s, and something that I was so impressed by and I still think about is the way that city was so often like closing off streets so that there could be, like the Montreal Jazz Festival or other festivals. And they literally would close the streets and people would flood into the streets and experience live music. And that ability for a city to make space for these big events, for these cultural events to happen and for people to experience that, I think is something that's really important. Toronto has done some of that. I think about Nuit Blanche in Toronto, which is a great experience for the public. I think we could do more to make those spaces accessible and to facilitate big events like that. Thinking about Miami and the Art Miami that happens there, the big art fair, that is an event.
For Art Basel?
Art Basel Miami, yes. That's an event that brings a lot of tourism to the city, that brings a lot of also sort of global recognition to the city. But it's an event that requires a significant investment for the city to be able to support something like that well. So we have a biennial here in Toronto, and it's an amazing event, and the city is supporting that event very well. I think that in order to have a world class biennale like that, it needs a lot more investment.
For sure. It's not just the artists, but we need funding, we need community support, and we need support of the citizens of the community as well.
That's right.
Yeah, for sure. Just switching gears, Kelly, a little bit to, I understand that the City of Toronto has created a 10-year plan to really kind of try to get us a little bit closer to that, more funding, that kind of thing. Can you share a little bit about Top Line, what that plan entails?
So I wasn't involved in creating that plan, but I know people who are. That actually the chair of our foundation was involved in consulting and building that plan. I think what that plan is ultimately is a strategy for the city to help guide how investments are made in public art, what level of investment is made, how the city could prioritize things like equity, making sure that that local artists, emerging artists are given opportunities to create public artworks, that neighborhoods throughout the city, not just in the downtown core, have public art available in their communities.
Right.
So it's really about, I think, setting priorities based on the demographics in the city, the areas that we want to serve, and making sure that equally across the city, the benefit of public art is there for everyone.
That's great. So kind of expanding it into some of the neighborhoods that might not have as much public art, making it easier for new and diverse artists, cutting some of that red tape, just being accessible, more accessible. I think that's really important. When you take a look at another kind of art, graffiti, I know a lot of people come to Toronto or visit who are here, Graffiti Alley on Queen or just south of Queen. And, that's such a cool space to go and check out. But for graffiti that isn't, commissioned or sponsored by a corporation or that kind of thing, how do you feel graffiti has a place in the city, or does it?
I think that there are some really talented graffiti artists there who are. I want to see them. I want to see them be able to contribute to the city in that way. I think that graffiti has often been historically an opportunity for artists to express themselves, to express also dissent, and I think that those kinds of things are really important. I think, there's an aspect of graffiti that's about artistic freedom and freedom of speech that is really important to promote
Absolutely.
And yeah.
For sure. Kelly, you mentioned the Toronto Biennial of Art Festival that's coming up later this fall. Can you share with us a little bit more information about that?
Sure. So the biennial happens every 2 years. So the last one was in 2022, and the next one is coming up, as you said, in this fall. And it's really a large-scale collaboration. The biennial partners with many arts venues and around the city and other partners, and they commission artworks by local artists as well as international artists. And then it's like a curated show with a theme that people can go and explore in different venues, public sites as well.
Awesome. So, I'm sure that attracts, tourism and visitors from other cities and other countries.
It does. I mean, if we think about the largest biennial event, it would be the Venice Biennale in Italy, which has been around for decades. And those events can be really great opportunities for people to experience new work and new ways of thinking about art and also about the world.
Absolutely. We don't have boats in gelato, but I'm sure it's just as good. So with the summer tourism season coming up, or even just for Torontonians kind of coming outside of their homes and condos and kind of hitting the streets, what are some of your favorite or top recos of like must-see public artworks or festivals or events coming up?
Well, I first of all think about the Bentway because that's always there, and they're always sort of doing something new and building on that. That's all in the warmer months. It's great to walk down there and see what's going on under the Gardner. So I also think about Luminato, which happens in June and does many concerts, public events, other installations in the city, and then the Fringe Festival is the other one that I always love attending, which is just such an accessible event. New theater works, a lot of energy around the Fringe, which is great to be part of.
Awesome. So lots to see and do.
Lots, yes.
Just as we're kind of wrapping up, Kelly, can you share with us, in your opinion, just to summarize really, what is the power of art to either breathe life into a neighborhood or a community, or really kind of cultivate a sense of a community?
I think that art ultimately has the power to make people think in different ways, to reflect on who they are, on the environment that they live in, and also inspire and generate ideas, generate new connections and relationships. So ultimately, when art with that ability is in a public space, is in a public accessible space, it can create all kinds of conversations. It can create all kinds of energy for people. And in a city like Toronto, which is so diverse, it can also really be sort of galvanize dialogue and conversation about togetherness and what we really need so much of right now in this world, to not be isolated, to really be engaged and together.
Absolutely. Kelly, are there any specific examples of neighborhoods or areas in the city where artists have really helped to re-energize the community or the neighborhood and kind of breathe new life into it?
I think there are lots of examples. A really early example is Queen Street West, actually, and what that was at the time, in the 80s, a really vibrant place for artists to be, to create work, and really brought people to Queen Street West, and then going down to Parkdale, and it happened in Parkdale, and with the Gladstone Hotel, with the Drake Hotel, how that energized that part of town. We can also think about the Junction and the cultural hub in the Junction. I think about also, something that was more deliberate, I guess, but the Distillery District as well, and the way artists participated in bringing that to life.
Yeah. So it's a very transformative power. Yeah, super, super exciting. And Kelly, lastly, the Toronto Arts Council is celebrating your 50th anniversary this year. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Any fun or exciting events coming up to commemorate the anniversary?
We are doing a big public event on June 13th in David Pecaut Square, actually in partnership with Luminato.
Okay.
And that'll be a great event. We'll have lots going on, lots of music, performance, community-based work, family-friendly types of activities in David Pecaut Square. So that's something that we're actively planning and really looking forward to. It's going to be a free, publicly accessible event. And we're doing other things to highlight all of the artists and organizations that TAC has funded in the last 50 years. And just to show the impact that they've had on the city, to show the way in which the Toronto Arts Council really helped them to get established, and supporting the potential that they had to grow as artists and organizations in the city.
Awesome. Well, congratulations again. Thank you so much for coming in today. It was really, really enjoyable to chat with you.
Great to talk with you too, Lori.
Thank you.